So good morning, everybody. I'm very happy to welcome you to our fourth mentoring webinar on experience capitalization. We are doing these mentoring webinars because we were not able due to COVID-19 to have a face-to-face meeting. And we would like to help people to really document and share the experience that they want to capitalize. So this webinar is really assisting you to do that. So I know that many of you are working on good practices or on innovation in different sectors. And so we are offering today the possibility to go a little bit deeper in this documentation. And the team is also ready to continue the mentoring even in one-to-one, so that we really have cases that are fully documented. Many of you are doing the course online on experience capitalization for continuous learning. And those who have done all the lessons will already have a good understanding on what is the process. However, I will invite Jorge, who is also a facilitator of this course, to do a little refresher with the different things that you should keep in mind when doing experience capitalization. So I will give the floor to Jorge, who is going just to refresh our mind with these few things before we will break into groups, because the idea is to give also the possibility to those who are starting their capitalization process to discuss it, and so we can move with them. So thank you very much, Jorge, for presenting these refreshing notes.
Yeah,
The floor is to you.
thank you, Sophie, and hello, everybody. Um, I would like to share a few words um, regarding this step of the process. Of course, this is a process, as we are mentioning. So we've been talking about it already in the past. We've been discussing some of the other steps. So we are not going to go through all of that again. But of course, it's always good to know where we are. How does what we're talking now link to what we've been talking in the past? As you can see here, we're going to be discussing today the steps related to documenting and sharing, especially sharing the lessons that come out of the whole capitalization process. But this, of course, doesn't come out of the blue. We have been, you can see in these diagrams, the whole idea that when we talk about experience capitalization, we start by preparing, we start by planning the whole process, which means, of course, selecting what are we going to be talking about, selecting the experience. That is something that we looked at one of the very first sessions we had, and which we also discussed in the previous mentoring sessions. Once we have selected the case, once we know, let's say, we know what we're going to be talking about, then we need to start collecting information, gathering all those ideas that we know, considering the work that we've been doing and the results that we have been finding. Now, next very important part of this is to try to analyze it. So not just to describe this is what we've done or this is what we've seen, but try to get to find some meaning of it. Why is it that we did it? Why did we have those results? Why is it that we didn't have even better results perhaps? Or why is it that we were so successful? This is something that we discussed also during the last session. And then we come to this part of the documenting. Once we have identified what are the key ideas, then we need to start sharing them. We need to, because of course we benefit a lot from the process, but we also want other people to benefit, and we also want other people to join and to get inspired by the work that we are doing. So we need to find a way of sharing these lessons, of sharing this information. This is what we're going to be talking today. And of course, the process doesn't finish here, but as you see in this orange part of the cycle, we need to make sure that something happens with those lessons, that they are used, that they are put into practice, so that we see the change that we expect to generate as a result of this process. Yes, so during today, we are only looking at one part of this whole cycle. But of course, I repeat here myself, I want you to see this as part of a whole cycle, as a whole process, and not just as an isolated activity. So we say that documentation is a word we normally use for trying to put all of these ideas in one format, which helps us sharing. We talk a lot about writing, not mostly because all of us write, all of us share information by writing. No, we send emails. Yeah, I don't know how many emails you send every day, but probably certainly more than 10. So we are every day we are writing, and then we write long reports, or then we write long articles, and some of you write long books. But of course, that's not the only way in which we communicate. At the moment, I am communicating with all of you, and I'm not writing anything. I'm just talking, and I'm trying to share my ideas, and I'm sure you do that in the same way. And some other people make videos, or some other people make audio files, or some other people just make live presentations. And in the same way as we're doing right now, the purpose of that is to try to share information and to convey a message. But whatever way we do this, whatever way we decide to communicate, we need to start by the beginning, which is by trying to understand, why are we doing this? What is the purpose that I'm trying to achieve? What will be the package in which I will put this information? How am I going to go about this process of putting information into a certain format, or putting the words into a certain order? And perhaps the most important question of all, who is my target audience? Whom am I trying to reach? Most of the times we answer to these questions, or we look at this automatically, even without thinking. Well, of course, if you're going to write an email, you have to know who are you writing to. And depending on who this person is, or these persons, you adapt the context of the email. If it is somebody who is very familiar, you may write in a familiar tone. If it is somebody who's, I don't know, maybe some big authorities in the government, then you need to use other types of words. So deciding who are we, or identifying clearly who this person is, or who these persons are, is perhaps the most important step at the moment, because that's going to shape everything we do afterwards. This is what we call the target audience. When we think of target audience as part of a capitalization process, we can think of two different groups. Some of them will be those who were part of the experience, or who are part of the process of experience capitalization, with whom we are sharing information, and with whom maybe they know a bit of what you're doing, because they may be your colleagues, or they have been involved together with you. But that is very different than people who were not at all involved, who have not been part of your activities, who are not your colleagues, but whom you also want to influence. You also want to reach out, because you think that if they know what you know, they can also benefit. So trying to identify who these audiences are, as I said before, it is crucial. And it is not just important because that's going to determine how do we talk. No, as I said, if you talk to the ministry, then you need to use a more formal language. That's important. But it is not only that. Another important thing for which we need to identify the audience, it's because we need to know, what do they know and what do they want to know, so that we are able to tell that they are interested in. Imagine that somebody comes and tells you information that you already know, then you are not so interested in listening to that person. But if this person is telling you things that you don't know and that you want to know, then you become more interested, and then you can really benefit from the process. That is what we need to know. We need to identify not just who these people are, but also what do they know? What do they want to know? What are they interested in as a sort of customers of our product? If we see them as customers, then we can provide this service or this product, and then we can do it better, and then the whole process becomes more successful. When we think of the target audience, then what I said already before, we can reach them in many different ways. Most of the times, we reach our target audience with written products, not just emails, but also articles or websites, etc. But that is not the only way, because we can also reach or we can share information, let's say with photographs, with images, or with videos, or with audio products, or with all these new online possibilities, which are more and more in use nowadays. We can choose many of them. The question is which one. And of course, that will depend on the target audience, and that will depend on the message that we want to share. The important thing is to realize that there are many different options. You can see here just a few examples. We normally talk about written products, and within the group written products, we can talk about guides and fact sheets and policy briefs and newsletters and magazines and articles. And of course, we can also talk about books and, well, you name it, everything. But that is not the only way, because we can also share information in all these other different options. The information might be the same. It is just that we present it in a different way. Why? Because the target audience may be much more comfortable with a different product, and therefore will get the message. There's a very simple example. If you want to communicate with people who speak another language, of course, it may be more convenient just to show images. If you want to communicate with people who find it more difficult to read, then it doesn't make sense to send a very long text. Now, so all these different considerations are what you need to pay attention to before deciding what product to use, but after you know what is your message and what is it that you want to share. And then linked to the products, we have the different channels, by which we mean the way in which we share this product and the way in which we get in contact with our audience and which we communicate with them. Most of the times we think of conventional channels, by which we mean, for example, the printed material in which it is just shared. Or you can also consider outdoor advertising, when you put a big advert on the streets and then people just look at it and see it and read your message. I used to work as editor of a magazine, and then we used to just prepare a magazine and then distribute it. And of course, the information, you can think of it very clearly, goes in one direction, from the editors of the magazine to the readers. That is what we call conventional ad channel, conventional dissemination of information. But that is not the only way. If we organize a meeting as we're doing right now, the information doesn't only go one way. The idea is that we can also talk to each other, and then I can share you some ideas, but then you can also talk back to me. That is the reason why many conferences or many meetings were organized face-to-face. That's something that we are not doing very much these days, of course, for the reasons that you all know, but it is something that it is very common. Now you do exchange visits with farmers, for example, or you organize a meeting where you all get together and everybody gets to talk and everybody gets to share information. The advantage of this is that the information goes both ways. The disadvantage, of course, is that it is a bit more expensive. And nowadays we have an in-between option, by which channels, well, the option, we call them digital channels, not like we're doing right now, in which it is not really face-to-face, but it is also not conventional in the sense that it goes one way. It goes both ways, and we can do this in many different ways, not just by writing emails, but by doing webinars as we are doing right now. The more you think of it, the more options you have under this category. And then the advantage here is that it is not only very cheap, it is also very easy to reach people all over the world at the same time. It is very easy to store information. It is sometimes you can even have automatic translations. So you name it, you can have a lot of advantages which serve the purpose which we were discussing at the very beginning, which is reaching the audience, inspiring them, and sharing the information, but by sharing the information that we have found on as part of our process. If we have decided who are we writing for the audience, and we have decided what will be the product, and we have decided how we are going to uh, contact all these people, then the next question, of course, is that we have to start doing it. We have to start putting it all together. If you remember all the things that we discussed in the previous sessions, they were meant to provide us with information, to provide us with the ideas, not the lessons that we were looking for, the results of our experience. So a very clear description and a very complete analysis of our own experience. We have been putting all of that information together. Now the task is to make something out of it so that we can share it with this audience and we can prepare one of these products that we are talking about. What you need to do now is to decide, okay, who am I writing for? How am I going to share this information? And once you decide that, you need to think, okay, but I already have that information because it's already there. You have already been describing and analyzing. So what we need to do is put it together. And the easiest way to put it together is to just to follow some sort of template by which you collect pieces of information and you make some story out of it. So if you decide I'm going to write an article, then you can just put this piece here and this piece there and then make a long article out of it. It's the same as if you write an email. If you say, I'm going to share my information on an email, you need some structure. You start with the introduction, you say, hello, Mr. So-and-so, and then you end up with the key ideas or key conclusions, and then you say, okay, happy to see you, we'll meet again, whatever. No, but you follow some structure. So what we would like to do now is to remember that we already have some sort of structures. These are the links that you'll get them also on the chat. These are the links by which you have already been answering some questions. And if you look at it, these questions are the structure of. Yes? So.
Thank you very much, Jorge, for refreshing our memories and going through the process of selecting the right channels and products according to the audience. I'm very pleased to see that different participants from different topics have joined. I know that some of you have already started the process. They have been present in the previous webinars. And I'm going to explain for those who are new in the webinars what we are doing, and also to enable you to first tell us about how do you feel about the process, what you have been doing between the webinars, and also what you would like to do. So this time now is for this exchange and question and answer. And I will also give you the instruction about how we break into groups. So as you may see on the screen, some of the people have a few letters before their names. So Weng Xiu, for example, she wrote X. X is for extension because what she is capitalizing upon is related to extension. And this is one of the topics that we are having. Ibrahim is working on digitalization. And so he has written DIG in front of his name. So I know that, for example, Petrit, Vitso are working on digitalization as well as Renor. So if you can put these three letters in front of your name, So who has any particular question related to the exercise that we are doing or what they have been doing in between the webinars? Please raise your hand. Or just switch off your mic.
Hello.
Yes,
Hi,
no,
everyone. Yes, very nice to hear you. I wonder, do we continue the analysis or we prepare to document? Or
yes, that's
we
a very
prepare the
good question.
documentation?
So for those who have already started, like you, Wenxiu, we are going to go back to the Google form, and we have added a few things in the Google form. There will be more questions because we are going one step a little bit deeper into the process. So this is why we have put in the chat the links to the Google Forms because we have different groups. We have the group on digital agriculture, and Ibrahim has started working on this. In extension, you have been starting working on it, but I know that others have already started. In other topics, we don't have anybody yet, but I think it would be nice that we started doing it with those who are working on disaster risk reduction and climate change. In Russian, we had one person who is not here today, so the person started documenting, going into the process of all the different phases of experience capitalization in Russian.
I wanted to, oh, okay. I wanted to thank you so much and your team for keeping us on toes and organizing us to document and do many of these activities that really are beneficial to us. I wanted to request if you could throw more light about other topics. Because if you look at extension, it's like across many, the digital agriculture, there are many things that really connect. But on other topics, I'm not sure exactly what is included.
Okay, no, other
Yeah.
topics was for whatever people wanted to do. We had also included another topic, which was the COVID-19 response, because we know that a lot of people have been working on that. But the COVID-19 response could be related to digitalization, could be related to extension, could be related to climate change. Because we had also one topic on climate change, related also or not to extension. And I know that at the end, many things are going to be connected. And so we will start with the people who have already started doing the process, so that those who were not there before can understand what was done previously. And also, all of you, if you have anything that you would want to start documenting, you will notice when you are in the Google form that there are plenty of empty sheets. These are for you. So if you have one thing that you want to start capitalizing upon, please put your name, please put the subject, you just start filling in. And able to continue. I will be in digitalization and Jorge in extension and others.
Yes.
See you in half an hour.
Yes.
Hello? Yes, we are little by little all back together. Okay, maybe I should, we were actually doing a kind of little feedback of the Google form, because people were asking how big it should be. And what I suggested as the advice that we are giving most of the time is you should start small. Don't think about the overall picture. So in the case of digitalization, don't think about talking about the roadmap or the strategy. Just think about one example, one good practice, one or experience in one specific sector, because this then can be used to explain to others how it was used and how it can be beneficial. So in this case, we were having market information system. So it's not to explain the overall strategy, but it's to look at this existed already in 2018 and it didn't work so well. So what were the barriers that enable this system to work well? And what were the elements that were very successful? And in the analysis, in this case, you will be able to have the lessons learned. Okay, if we want this system to be resumed, then we should be doing this, that, and that. And all the exercise of today, it's really to see what are we learning, what are the things that have to be sustainable, what needs to be in place. So this is why the documentation of the experience is becoming ideally, if we want this to be sustainable economically, socially, environmentally, and if we want this to be scaled up at the national level, these are all the different points that we should be taken into account. And therefore, your experience helps to become a good practice. So Petrit was saying, but we have many of these experiences. So should we have a small document for each of them? And I say, yes, this is exactly how it should start. You start small, you start small experiences. So you could have something about an irrigation system, a digital irrigation system that will fit smallholder farmers. And you start explaining how this is interesting for them and why they would benefit out of it. So this is what we should be doing. Small experiences, but explaining, and this is very important in the way you're documenting. It's important to explain the how and the why it was done this way, because it's usually people tend to focus on what has been done, but this is not sufficient. What we need is to have an analysis and also lessons learned, and also the advice and the conditions for others to be able to replicate later or to learn from what has been done. So these are the few things I wanted to share with you on this. Maybe Jorge, from your group, you would like to share with us how it went and what was the discussion you had?
I think it went well, but we missed a few persons at the beginning, but I think they came up and then they started looking at the documents. Of course, the time is very short for yeah, even answering one of the pages. I think this is something that cannot be completed right now, but needs to go on, of course, and people have to continue accessing these documents, not just to look at their own work, but also to look at the work that other people are doing. No, that's the whole point of having everybody in the same document. But then some of the issues that we discussed are similar to what you said, the idea of choosing as an experience well, and by choosing something rather small, concrete, that makes it easier to use, easier to describe and to analyze, and therefore perhaps more interesting also for the readers in the end. So yeah, something relatively small, and at the same time something which is well known by the owner of the experience, by you as authors. So pick something which is directly related to the work that you're doing, because then it becomes easier to describe and easier to analyze and easier to identify, and at the same time becomes more interesting also for yourselves, who are the main beneficiaries of the whole process. So yeah, we had similar discussions to what you mentioned, Sophie. Oh. And then, yeah, we also looked at the template. Well, these Google Docs, which of course is it's just a basic template. Don't expect it to be more than that. It is a basic template which helps us put some ideas, which of course need to be expanded afterwards. No, but we are just organizing the information, making a sort of table of contents, which then we will expand and which will really improve to become a bigger document.
I think it's nice to reply to this question. So Dad asked, what is the difference between a lessons learned and a good practice? So in a good practice, the lessons learned is one of the elements. And the lessons learned is when you have analyzed the constraints and when you have analyzed the success factors, then you have your lessons learned. We learned that in order to avoid that, you should be doing this. We learned that we did this well because, and this is how it was done. And the good practice will enable not only to talk about the lessons learned, but also to give advice if you have to start it from scratch. And if you want to actually cover, to remain at a local level, we will recommend you to do this, that, and that, and that. If you want to scale it up at a national level, we will recommend to do that. So the good practice also, and this is what FAO has been developing, we have a kind of template because there are a few criteria for a good practice to be a good practice. That it has been successful, it is feasible, it's gender sensitive, it is participatory, and it is sustainable socially, economically, and environmentally. And it could also enable to reply to disaster risk and crisis. That this last criteria doesn't have to be always be ticked, but the criteria for good practice are these, and this is what you're describing in your good practice case. And as I said, the lessons learned is only, it's the analysis that you have been doing, looking at all the results that you got and the barriers and the success factors. And for those who are doing the course online, in module 5 of the course, you had the template for good practices. And you can have a look at it. The template is a kind of checklist. You try to go through it. You don't have to fill it in properly and fully, but it enables you to see what is the information that you have available, and it enables you to also do some type of analysis to be able to draw your lessons. Then we have a question from Vitso. It's a farmer results use ICT solution at farm level. Is that small and concrete? So in this case, for Vitso, I think that maybe there are many solutions. So maybe you should focus on what are the top 3 to 5 solutions that are more relevant for small farmers, and then you can document each of them. We have changed a little bit the mentoring section, so we have made it easier to read. And in the wall of experiences that we are documenting, we are putting the links to the Google Docs, so people can really what is nice is that when someone has finalized all the questions, then we know we have to tell the story. So this is something that we should also try to do. It's to tell the whole story to each other. And then we have to see whether we understand it or not. And what is missing then has to be completed. So there is a little bit more work to be done. But we have one more webinar next week, which will be also at 10 on Thursday. So I really hope that many of you will be able to continue this process with us. So please let us know if you're able to join just now using maybe the thumbs up or a yes in the chat, or using the documents, the buttons, you know, like yes next to your name. Are you able to do that? Yep. Yes. Okay. I hope that for people from Turkey and other countries, you will be able to join as well. Okay. Well, I hope that you find this useful. We are trying to make it not complicated, because the easiest and the simple it is, more engaging it is. And we can continue discussing one-to-one. Jorge, do you want to add anything to this?
No, just
Okay.
thank you, and thanks to everybody. Yes.
Thank you very much. We will also put the recording, as usual, on an edited version on the platform, so that other people who are not able to join can join us.
Yeah.
So I'm wishing you a good work. Please continue, and we are very pleased to work with you. The deadline will be for the GFRS meeting on the 7th of September. So I think it's good to have sometime a carrot and a deadline, so that we can work hard and make sure that we have a results. And anyway, there will be time for fine tuning, because the 7th of September is just the first draft, and we will have more time to fine tune things. And also we are thinking of having editors who will be able to help us also doing this in English and Russian. So on this, thank you very much to all of you. It was a pleasure to see you again. And I hope other colleagues from your side will be able to join. Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.